Ethan Cole was a dreamer, a tinkerer. He spent his days lost in thought. He saw glimpses of other times. Visions of gaslight streets and strange contraptions filled his mind. They felt real. Ethan dismissed them as an overactive imagination. He buried himself in his projects. He loved taking things apart and putting them back together. He longed to understand how things worked. One day, Ethan stumbled upon an old pocket watch at an antique shop. It was intricate, beautiful. He felt drawn to it. As soon as he touched it, the world around him dissolved. The familiar sights and sounds of his apartment vanished. Ethan was enveloped in a blinding flash of light. Ethan opened his eyes, disoriented. He was lying on a cobblestone street. He sat up, his head spinning. Gone were the sleek cars and towering skyscrapers of his time. He saw horse-drawn carriages instead. Elegant ladies with parasols strolled down the sidewalks. Newsboys hawked headlines about the world's Columbian Exposition. Ethan had landed in 1893 Chicago. Panic surged through him. He was lost, alone. He had no idea how he got there. Ethan noticed a strange device on his wrist. It resembled the pocket watch, but it was attached to a leather strap. It hummed faintly. He pressed a button on the side. The device emitted a low beep. His heart sank. He was stuck. Ethan wandered through the bustling streets of Chicago. He tried to blend in. His modern clothes drew curious stares. He needed help. He spotted a sign for Hawthorne Laboratories. It seemed promising. He stepped inside. The lab was filled with strange and wonderful inventions. A kindly old man with twinkling eyes greeted Ethan. This was the Dr. Elias Hawthorne, the brilliant inventor. Ethan showed him the device. Dr. Hawthorne's eyes widened in astonishment. "My boy," he said, "it seems you've stumbled upon something extraordinary." Dr. Hawthorne explained that the device was a temporal displacer, a prototype he had been developing. It allowed travel through time, but it was unstable, dangerous. He warned Ethan that he needed to return to his own time quickly. Otherwise, he could be stranded in 1893 forever. They worked tirelessly in Dr. Hawthorne's lab. They pored over diagrams. They tested circuits. Each passing hour increased the risk for Ethan. But he couldn't help but be captivated by the world of 1893. Section 5. The World of 1893. Ethan spent his days exploring the marvels of the world's Columbian Exposition. He marveled at the electric lights that illuminated the White City. He rode the Ferris wheel, a marvel of engineering. He saw inventions that wouldn't exist for decades in his own time. He met people from all walks of life, learned their stories. He felt a connection to this era, a sense of belonging that he had never felt before. But he knew he couldn't stay. He had to return to his own time. Section 6. Fixing the Temporal Displacer. After days of relentless work, Dr. Hawthorne finally found the solution. They had repaired the temporal displacer. It was now stable enough to transport Ethan back. Ethan felt a mix of relief and sadness. He had grown attached to Dr. Hawthorne and the wonders of 1893. He thanked Dr. Hawthorne for everything, for his kindness, his brilliance. Dr. Hawthorne smiled warmly. "It was an honor, my boy," he said. "Your journey has just begun." Section 7. A difficult decision. Ethan stood before the temporal displacer. He hesitated. He looked back at Dr. Hawthorne, his heart heavy. He had a choice to make. Return to his own time or embrace the unknown and stay in 1893. The decision weighed heavily upon him. He glanced at his surroundings one last time. The clock was ticking. He had to decide. Section 8. Returning home. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped into the temporal displacer. He closed his eyes as the device whirred to life. The familiar feeling of light and energy enveloped him. When he opened his eyes, he was back in his apartment. The antique pocket watch lay on his workbench, silent and still. He had returned. But he was forever changed by his experience. He had traveled through time, witnessed history firsthand. He knew that his life would never be the same. Section 9. A Note from the Past. As Ethan began to piece his life back together, he noticed something tucked inside the pocket watch. It was a small folded note. He carefully opened it. It was from Dr. Hawthorne. The note read, "The future is not set. Keep exploring, Ethan." A smile spread across Ethan's face. He knew what he had to do. His adventures through time were far from over.